live life by design and not by default. I'm no different from a regular person who decided not to live the norm, like not to be a part of the American dream that was given to me, but to create my own. If you don't build your dreams, someone else will hire you to help them build theirs. And when I actually first saw that quote and heard it, like it really, really resonated with me because I realized for the first few years of, adulthood, I was actually working for someone, helping them build their dreams. But yet all of the dreams that I had growing up as a kid was deferred.
Empower You podcast is devoted to bringing real-world wisdom and encouragement to our listeners, fans, subscribers, and friends. We talk about a multitude of life principles and the process from an economic, societal, and cultural perspective. We believe that in tough conversations and shared wisdom, we can pave the path and leave a ladder for the future. So subscribe to our channel, rate, review, and let us empower you. Welcome to Empower You podcast. My name is Kidboy Cooper. I am so excited that you are here. Today we're going to be talking to an incredible guest, and she's going to give us a lot of great insights. But before then, I kind of want to tell you about what we're doing. So obviously, we have been discussing men's issues. I've been under a bit of a burden, I guess, to really shed a lot more light and perspective on some of the behind the scenes things that are going on with men. We have a lot of conversations around and about men, but we really don't talk to conscious Black men, conscious men in general, about some of the inner workings that are going on. And so the topic for our interview today is going to be about false expectations. We have a lot of expectations for men, and we have a lot of, things that we aspire to be as men, but we really got to get to the bottom of what that looks like and how that is perceived by others. And maybe we're operating under a scarcity mindset or a lack mentality, thinking about ourselves in this way and putting expectations on ourselves that may not be truly accurate. And so I have been documenting all these incredible conversations. You can go back through and listen to some of them. But today we'll be speaking with Karwana. So me and Karwana are in an elite business group together. And I had no idea who she was at first. But when she got on and started to speak about some of the work that she does, I was just very, very interested. Karwana is a government contract specialist. She's a serial entrepreneur, owns multiple companies. She's a mompreneur, so you're gonna see her with her little king with her right now. She's a mother, she's a wife, she's absolutely incredible, and I think you're gonna get a lot of value from the things that she has to say. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring her up, and you guys can help me welcome her. Karwana, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you? And thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. I know you're very busy, and that's what comes to the territory of being awesome. So I appreciate you for being here for sure.
Sure, no problem. Thank you.
So, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do, and then we'll kind of get into some of the questions.
Absolutely. I am Karwana D. I'm a government contract strategist. I work with minority small business owners, teaching them how to actually grow profitable businesses by landing the number one largest purchaser of all business products and services in the world, which is the government. And over the past 5 years, I've helped over 200 small businesses, minority small businesses at that, generate an additional $3 million and growing in revenues on contracts that are specifically set aside for African-American owned businesses, right? And so that's what I do in a nutshell. I'm also a mompreneur. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. And, it's just all about impact. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to help other people learn how to achieve their dreams by leveraging their business as a vehicle to generate wealth.
That is absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
There's so many things that you just said that I didn't know about. I had no idea before knowing you that the government was the number one purchaser of services. I had no idea about that. And I also, and maybe this is like conditioning, right? I never think there's actual dollars set aside for, businesses of color or businesses run by people of color. I think that is that's mind-blowing in of itself, and that's worth looking into. How did you get into government contracting? Like, that seems like you kind of are
stumbled upon. I feel like I stumbled upon, and I coined it actually the $1 trillion secret, right? Because there's literally trillions of dollars that's being set aside for Black and brown businesses and women-owned businesses that most, like the majority, I would say more than 90% of small business owners don't even know that exists. Don't even know that you can sell to the government. And so as a entrepreneur, I started the entrepreneurial journey about 20 years ago, and that was at the age of 27. I actually walked away from corporate America because I wanted to build my own dream and to begin to create a legacy. But like most small business owners, like initially, like you don't know, right, who's your customer. So you're thinking your auntie, your mom, your cousin, your friend, your siblings, your friends, and all initially. And so that's the reason why we start off in the first few years struggling, trying to push a business up a hill, right? As opposed to learning about or knowing about or becoming aware of other ways to really grow a profitable business. And so for the first few years, I struggled in business, and I was trying to figure out like how, after hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans, in getting a master's degree in business, I still don't know this, right? And so like after a few years of really struggling, I really just started soul searching and digging and asking questions from other like successful businesses, like, because I grew up to where it was like, it was like, you don't ask a person what is their secret, right? What is your secret to success, right? Yeah. But I got so desperate in business that the first Black billionaire that I knew and met, I asked him, how did you do it? Like, cause we had gotten close, like we went to church together and all that stuff. That was like a big brother. And I was like, dude, like, how did you do this? Right? And he said, and I was actually doing some freelance work for him. And he said, the same thing you're doing for me, you can do for the government. I was like, what? What are you talking about? Like, the government has contracts for Black-owned business. Oh, really? Okay. So, it took me a while to kind of learn the process and do some research and figure out exactly how to do it. But that's when I learned the biggest kept secret that will revolutionize your business, like, and change the way, we do business. Instead of chasing customers, there's a customer who's already looking, and they have to spend those dollars with us. And so that's how I learned about government contracts. And then from there, my whole complete life changed. So now I'm empowering other Black and brown and women-owned businesses, showing them exactly the things that I learned in business.
That is wild. Oh my goodness. That is like just exciting to even hear about, and I'll be honest, both of us are part of like I said, a business group, and I've just heard more things that I just never even imagined. When they say you don't know what you don't know, you really don't. You don't even know that these questions could even be asked. Like, there are just so much information that we just completely miss because we're so busy just living life, and for me especially, we grew up surviving. We grew up going to church and surviving. That's what we grew up, and so it's incredible that you can do that, and that as people of color, we don't have to settle for thinking of our businesses and our lives the way that we've been conditioned to think.
Yes, absolutely. And I would say, like, we have really, like, I always tell people, the first time that I realized everything that I learned was a lie was my first experience as a freshman in college. I learned that Christopher Columbus did not discover America. I didn't know that was fake in high school, because everything that indoctrination happens in school. Like, all the things that we learn in school are completely like wrong. And I have no problem. Like I have master's degree, bachelor's degree, like all that stuff, right? So I have nothing against education, but it's just like we really have to learn to teach our own, and we really need to learn how to be a student of our own selves, and be responsible for our own knowledge and do our due diligence to learn the truth. Because the truth and the matter is like, even in learning business things in school and in economics, we think that it takes 2 to 3 years to turn a profit in a business, and you're supposed to be upside down for the first few years. But guess what? This big secret, you could be profitable in the first 30, 60, 90 days. And we're talking about multiple six figures and multiple millions of dollars that's on the table. So it's just like, we like, oh my God, like we completely have been lied to. And so while we're distracted, trying to survive, trying to pay bills and all these other things, there's people who know this stuff, and they're getting, those are the ones that we look at their lives, and we're like, oh my God, they're so brilliant. Oh, that's Elon Musk. Well, guess what? Elon Musk has the largest government contract in the world. The sky thing, right? Sending people to space. Elon Musk has a government contract, right? That's how they're doing it. It's just like we have been duped and left out. and this is it for like knowledge. The more you know, the more you can actually position yourself to win. Like we're not here to be broke. We're not here to pay bills. And you did not start a business to struggle, right? If you're going to do that, you might as well go work for someone else. So it's like, if you started a business, the business is going to bring you millions. You just have to get through all the noise and figure out the truth about business. And that's what I'm telling. I'm just telling the truth about business.
Listen, this is wild to me right now. I feel like, so imagine this. This is what I'm thinking right now. Today I've been kind of transported. I've been feeling like my 16-year-old self a lot today. And so there's this one particular spot on Broadway where I grew up in Gary, Indiana, where I used to walk by there to catch the bus and stuff like that. And I used to think, how am I going to get out of here? What am I going to do? How is this going to work? Because I wanted to do stuff that I had just never seen done before. I wanted to be able to make money. I wanted to be able to live my life in a way that wasn't just about surviving. And so when you're saying all of this, I'm thinking, what if that 16-year-old was listening to you speak right now?
Yeah.
The entire world completely changed. Completely. And I think that's the power, one of just sharing information, but then also of just this podcast in general. Because I don't want to know the fluffy stuff. I want to know exactly how people who have done it, how they would advise other people to move forward so that they're not stuck for years and years and years taking all these programs, doing all this stuff, when in reality that person is sitting on a huge government contract they just didn't even tell you about. You thinking they're doing all this stuff, and so that's incredible. So when you're starting this government contracting work, like what about this do you enjoy, right? Like, so you stumbled into this, but what made you want to start sharing it with other people? What made you want to start? Because a lot of folks, they gonna keep their little $1 million secret. They're not gonna tell you nothing.
Yeah, that is so true. And like for me, I've always been a sharer of information. Like I've always been a giver, right? It's just like one of my gifts to share, to help, to push people along, to motivate, all those things has always been a part of who I am. So even before I knew about government contracting, I knew about how to start a business. So I would share with people, this is how you build a business. And I learned about how to build business credit. And I would share with people, this is how I got that first, couple $100,000 to like invest in my business by leveraging business credit. Did you know you can do this? Did you know just because your credit is jacked up that you can fix it, right? Like you don't have to stay where you are, right? And these are things that the wealthy people are doing, they're leveraging credit and all those things. So I've always shared information. So government contracting, like that phenomena was just one more thing that I was like, when I actually, the first contract that I ever landed, like, mind you, I quit a job at 27, and this job I was making about 80 to 90,000 a year. And this is like with overtime and all this other stuff, working 40-hour and more work weeks, right? So I quit that job to build a business. And initially my business was only bringing in maybe 20, 30,000 a year or less, right? So I'm just like, okay, well, I'm upside down. Do I have to go back to work? And so basically, so I was trying to figure out how to do that. When I found about government contracts, I landed my first $70,000 contract, and it was for 28 days of work. And so I was just like, what? Like, I was working 40 hours work weeks, having kids missing out on first steps, having to take them to childcare, missing out on first words, working overtime, not having time to do anything. For 90,000 a year is 28 days of work for 70,000. So I almost replaced in way less time what I was, what I had sacrificed. I almost replaced that income, right? And so I'm just like, why don't we know this? Why don't they share this information? I had that aha moment, just like when I first discovered Christopher Columbus. That whole little thing about Christopher Columbus discovering America was a lie. It was another like, what type of thing. And so I was just like, I'm going to be the person that tells everybody. I'm gonna let y'all know, this is $1 trillion secret. They have buckets of money for us and we need to go get it. But most people, they hear the information and they don't really understand how real that is. Like, so yesterday I was walking down the street and I decided to, go live on my Facebook because I wanted to do I Spy a government contract to kind of bring it, like, to show people exactly opportunities that we drive by and we walk by all the time. So I was walking down the street and I see a bus stop, right? I'm like, a government contractor, like a small business, built that bus stop. And then you know how they have the advertising display boards? Well, a communications firm, public relations firm, and a graphic design contractor, these are small businesses, they built that and they enclosed that there. And then I saw the street signs and I'm like, well, they have government contracts for street signs. Like, I know people personally who have $1 million, billion-dollar companies because of government contracts, just providing the street signs. And then I was walking down the street and I'm looking at the grass, right? And it's unkept. And I'm like, there's landscaping companies that get government contracts just to keep the grass. And I'm looking at the windows on the post office and I'm like, there's glazing, small business glazers that get contracts to put in the windows. And then not even beyond that, there's janitorial companies they have contracts for to do the power washing of these windows. So we walk by $1 million opportunities every day, but most people don't see it. It's like your eyes is wide shut. You know what I'm saying? Like, your eyes is wide shut. And so I'm here because I want to shed light on opportunities. I'm getting it. And like you said, most people have the crab in the bucket mentality.
Yeah.
They want to keep these secrets to themselves but guess what? It's so much money on the table. We're talking about multiple trillions of dollars across federal, state, and local city. I can't get all that by myself. I'm not a blazer. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, I want to share that information with Black businesses because it matters. We've been struggling way too long working for Uncle Sam, like trying to payday to payday, passing down debt to our kids when there's opportunities for us to change the very narrative. And so when you're engaged and involved and you care about the Black community, well, it's going to take some money to get us out of that. And small businesses, like, we have so much power when it comes to government contracting, when it comes to corporate contracting, all that cash flow, like, we can literally do things like buy our blocks back. We can literally be philanthropists in our communities, and we can literally change our circumstances. And it starts with one, right? So it's like, the more people I can empower, like, you just sat back like, what? The more people I can empower with this information, the more, like, we're likely to actually begin to change our circumstances, one business at a time. Because small businesses, it's all about small businesses. And the SBA, the Small Business Act, the Small Business Administration, they know the power of small businesses, which is why they have this here in the first place.
Wow. My mind is blown right now.
Yes.
Oh my God. Like, I don't even know what to say. That is so incredible. Listen, when they say you don't know what you don't know.
Don't know. Yeah.
You really don't. And that's incredible. We're going to have to have a conversation offline about that because there's so much, oh my goodness. So how has it been for you navigating this environment, right? Because I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but is government contracting a very male dominated
Yeah.
industry or
Mhm.
field? How are
Yeah.
you dealing with so many different
Yeah.
male energies or whatever, and especially as a
Yeah.
woman, a black
Yeah.
woman, like
Yeah.
how is that for you, and how are you overcoming some of that?
Yeah, so the thing about it is, yes, it's definitely dominated by men, which is the reason why they also have a set aside budget specifically for woman-owned businesses, right? So it's just
Yeah.
like as a woman, you can double dip in both pots as a minority and as a woman, right? So there's contracts for women, there's contracts for minorities, and if you're disadvantaged as a business, there's a contract for you because of that status as well. And so like it has been I mean, the men, they're actually welcoming, right, to women who get involved in government contracts. Especially, we have women glazers, we have women construction firms that are getting government contracts, like women who are getting into the trades who have contracts. Like it's amazing. Women who do like construction management. We have a lot more women communication firms that are getting involved, public relations firms like photographers like myself that are getting involved in government contracting. And so it's just like, it's not like a competitive thing. Like you don't find yourself competing with men because they have to use you. Like if a male owned business got like a $1 billion contract, they have to use 5% of that contract for a woman. So it's just like, you know, they need us. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that it probably secures their ability, because now when those questions are asked, they know they have a good contractor. They know they can check all the dots. So that means
Yeah.
they can take on that $1 billion contract.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Oh my goodness. So you talked about, these ideas that, especially in the black community, we have about ourselves.
Yeah.
And, being in California, I feel like you probably see a lot of different lifestyles playing out, right? And
Yeah.
lifestyles are based on choices and ideas about yourself.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering is, what is the resistance that you get as you are working with different people?
Yeah.
What are you encountering? Because
Yeah.
now you're working with business owners who are
Yeah.
where you used to be, right? They haven't
Yeah.
had their Christopher Columbus moment. They haven't
Moment.
had their government
Absolutely.
contract moment. They
Yeah.
haven't seen it. And so now they're like, okay, I trust
Yeah.
her. She seems really trustworthy.
Yeah.
I'm a hire you to help me, or what are you encountering during this
Yeah.
process though?
Just what I encounter is that people don't really understand how big this could be for them. A lot of times I encounter that people don't even understand like how to invest in themselves, and how investing in yourself is actually going to help you build and grow your business. And I understand because I was there before. When I had a broke mentality and I was a small business owner, the reason why I was stuck at 20,000 and 30,000 a year revenues is because I did not invest in the tools and the team in order to build capacity to take my business to the next level. And so I remember very clearly when I would go to like the small business week events, and there will be like all these vendors, right? Vendors like MailChimp, like all these other companies that have tools like that's going to help small business owners basically grow their business. And I'll be like, well, I don't need a email campaign. I don't need CRMs.
I could do it
I'm going to
myself.
everything manual, right? Because when you're a small business, this is some of the things that I encounter. You think the more money you keep, the more money you'll have. But guess what? It's completely backwards. So everything that we even learned about money is completely wrong. Money is currency. It's supposed to flow. So really, it's the more money you give or invest, the more money you will receive. And it's just like, once I understood that, the very first time I invested into my business, I think it was like a couple thousand, like I literally made about 30,000 back from that $2,000 investment. And I was like, the more money you spend on your business, the more money you make. And so here's the thing, when it comes to like teaching people, of course, how to build $1 million companies with government contracts, because that's one thing you learn, and you can do this forever. We have people that are landing $250,000 contracts, like, and on and on and on and on, right? Like,
Thank you so much for listening to Empower You Podcast. I just want to interrupt you for a second to tell you about a brand new podcast that's on the Creative Podcast Podcast Network. So the Guru Guide to Podcast is my latest project, and this podcast is dedicated strictly to the business podcasters, the CEOs who are looking to save more time on social media, the conscious business owners who understand that they can't get the same results out of their business if they're spending all of their time on social media, and that they need to be speaking to more of their ideal clients and build a community around their offer, around their services, around their expertise. If you are a business owner, a coach, a consultant, service provider who's looking to create a profitable business podcast that increases your revenue and decreases the amount of time you'll need to spend on social media, you need to click the link in the show notes and listen to the Guru Guide to Podcasting. I can't wait for you to check it out. I'll see you there.
Large contract for the first time, right?
Wow.
But if you don't see the power of like, this is not going to be for free. Like I'm not going to be able to teach you this like step by step and show you how to do this for free. You have to be willing to make an investment. If I showed you how to do it for free, then I'm cheating you out of giving to receive that thing,
Correct.
that transaction, right? But most people are so stuck on the more I keep, I'm going to keep my little coins and figure it out. And I'm just going to figure it out on my own, right? So now you have time, that a whole bunch of years that go by because you thought you were keeping money, but really you were losing out on the opportunity to make $1 million a year, right? So it's just like you lost. And so that is one of the biggest hurdles, is just trying to get people to see the bigger picture. And especially Black and brown, like businesses, like get you to see like you have to invest in tools and knowledge to help you get there faster, because you don't want to become a millionaire 30 years from now. 30 years from now, you may have like 10 years left, right? You want to enjoy life right where you are, like right now, right? So if I can show you how to do that in the next 6 to 12 months, then it's worth investing, so you buy your time back. And not only do you buy your time back, now you can buy the lifestyle that you aspire to, that you've been dreaming about. And it's not going to take you 30 years or maybe never to get it. You can get it much faster when you have the right strategy. And so that's one of the biggest things that I encounter, just like the mindset, trying to help people see the big picture. Yeah. Like, this is a real thing. It's not like playing a lottery. You play the lottery, you're one in a couple million, right, chance of winning, right? But you invest in your business, you have a 50-50 chance. So can you bet on you? Are you going to do the work? If you do the work, you will get the results.
Absolutely. I 1000% agree with that. If you do the work, you'll get the results. And it might take a second, and you got to hang out and hang in there, but you'll get the results. That is absolutely awesome. So you mainly work with women. Is there a reason you don't work with men? Is there
I do.
A level?
I do work with men. I work with men. So, but just primarily, women have been initially I wanted to empower women, which is the reason why I've named my business She's Got Goals, because I wanted to empower women. And then the men were like, well, what about us, right? So
absolutely.
We want to make money too. So I did start working with men, and then also like my husband, he's like my partner. So we got the He's Got Goals too type of consultant firm. So we work hand in hand. But I do also help. I coach men and teach them like money is money. Like, it's the same system for women, it's the same system for men on how to get government contracts. So we do work with both women and men. It's just that you see a lot more women investing in themselves than men for some reason.
So why is that? Why do you feel like men, are so limited in their thinking or in their understanding that? You feel like they don't feel like they're worth investing in? Do you feel like men feel like they have too much pride to admit that they need help in areas? What kind of expectations do you think are causing some of this? Because I know this is true in the self-development world too. An Empower You podcast is a mentorship podcast, right? But mentorship allows you to develop yourself, right? And so it is self-development, and so there's only 10% of men in the self-development space for some reason. Yeah. So why do you think that is, that men have such a hard time investing in themselves and ultimately getting to where they want to be?
Well, I would just say, just from the men that I've encountered and have known over the years, is just like, one, they think they can do it all themselves. Men, like a lot of men, and this may not be true for all men, but men think they know it all already. Like, what can you teach me that I don't already know, right? Especially learning from a woman. Like, what can you teach me? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, men think they already know it all. And then also, I guess there's this thing that men are supposed to be the breadwinner, and the only thing that they've been taught growing up is the breadwinner goes out and work a traditional job. So you're not taught that, how to really think outside the box, outside of that, and try to figure out like, well, who can I pay to show me how to do it faster? Right? So that I can get results faster to provide for my family faster and stuff like that. You don't think that way. So I don't really know the answer to that, but I know that here lately I've seen a lot of there's an awakening happening, with young men like yourself who are creating wealth through podcasts. Men are waking up, they're waking up, and you're seeing a lot more men that are out there advantageous, just like learning how to generate wealth and building wealth and having wealth discussions and having like mastermind groups about wealth and all different types of investments and things. So they have come around, because before, like, this whole conversation about wealth building and things was dominated by women. Like, we've been having this conversation for a long time about leveraging life insurance to generate wealth, and like all of these different wealth strategies that we've learned, right? And so now men are like, they're starting to have these conversations as well. So you see it a lot more than it was like 10 years ago, where it just wasn't happening.
So I feel a little bit played right now. I'll be honest. So ladies have been having these conversations in secret behind our back for forever?
In secret. I guess so. I guess it is in secret. No, women have been having these conversations. I think it was probably about 12 or longer years ago. Like, I was in when I began to see life through a different lens, like I had learned about this woman's group type of thing where they would have conversations about wealth, right? And how it really works. And how I grew up was like, you save your money, right? And eventually you hope, that you'll get wealthy that way. But it's like, all of that is like, you'll never get wealthy saving money. You have to learn things like how to make your money grow. And so we will have conversations about how there's different types of life insurance policies that the wealthy people they get, right, to pass down generational wealth. Policies that you can actually leverage and use while you're alive and, borrow from to become your own bank and things of that nature. And how there's bank accounts where you put money in certain type of bank accounts and they pay you compound interest. So just like the credit card companies compound the interest on you, and you end up paying more than the value of the credit card, right, in return. Well, there's bank accounts that pay you that way as individuals. And so we started having these conversations about how to position yourself and how credit really works. And because I remember I could not care less about a creditor coming after me. And literally, in my broke mindset back then, I was just like, get in line with the rest of them. When a creditor would call me, we go do this, get in line with the rest of them. I know I owe you. I ain't got no money, right? But what I learned was that broke credit can be fixed. And then when you fix your credit, you can leverage it to generate wealth, like by getting lines of credit, not to go shopping, right? But to invest in things like real estate that's going to make money, right? But to invest in things, like gold bars and gold coins that's going to increase in assets. So we started thinking about and having conversations about wealth. And I'm like, wow, like, I've been broke all my life and I never knew that you can do these things. Like, I didn't know I can own land. Like, we started buying land, doing those things. Like, I didn't know we can buy land this cheap. Like, I think I bought like 10 acres of land. It was under $5,000. Like, I didn't know I could ever do that. I would have never in a million years dreamt that would be me. I would have never in a million. So you have these wealth conversations, and it's like one of the greatest books I think that was ever written for me was Robert Kiyosaki. What was it called? Like
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it is so true. These are the things that rich fathers and rich families talk about with their kids. What we talk about is put it on layaway, right? That type of thing. Like, save it up. Go pay your tithes. We don't talk about, here's the life insurance policy that I've had. It's $1 million policy that I have for you. Okay, what I want you to do is cash it in and get another, take 20% and invest the rest in another $1 million policy for your kids or whatever. These are $1 million policies, right? That if something happened to you, your house is paid for, your kids are inheriting things, and then you're passing down the riches, right? So it's just like most African Americans, we're thinking about policies to bury people. Well, $10,000 policy is going to just bury somebody. But what do you do for your family? How do you leverage that, right, to generate wealth and that you can become your own banker and all that stuff? And so, yeah, so those are the conversations that we started having without the men.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. This is so very, very interesting. Oh my goodness. And so I think about this and I'm like, okay, so you're not having these conversations, or at least you weren't having these kind of conversations with men because men don't want to reveal that they didn't know before they talk to you, right?
I would say yeah. But also like for most of us like that were married, like men were like, they dominate the money. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, let me go do this. They'll go blow money on, you know, riding around, going out to eat. But then you're like, here, I want to invest in fixing my credit for the longer picture. They didn't, you know, men didn't see the longer term picture, right? So it's just like, yeah. So, I mean, it wasn't intentional, but yeah, that's the reason why, you know, women can get together and have these conversations and produce something really amazing. But like I said, now men are starting to wake up. I see a lot more men having these very same conversations.
I see. And so when you're saying this, like, I grew up thinking, you know, if a man don't work, don't let him eat, right? That was the big thing around the house. Like, so you're always supposed to be working and everything, which is fine. I don't think that there's anything wrong with working, but I do think that working looks a lot of different ways. And I grew up thinking working meant, you know, you need to have 2 and 3 jobs, which I had. You need to work, you know, 60 to 80 hours a week, which I did. You know, you need to be doing all these different things because eventually, you know, once you save out X amount of money, you don't want to take out, you don't want, you want to buy everything cash. Like that's how we do, you know, blah, blah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that as I've gotten older, I'm like, first of all, there's too many life situations for me to just wait on the cash to arrive.
Yeah.
One, and then also, this is an unsustainable pace to work at because I may be able to do this at 25, but at 45, I don't think I'm able to do this. At 55, at 65, you know, my dad's finally retired now, and it is a breath of relief for me because at 60 years old, my dad was still working 16 hours a week. I mean, 16 hours a day.
It's hard. Yeah.
It's just like, I don't want to be doing that.
And you know, like, that's like, it's one of the hardest things because it's like the norm. You know, it's just like you're born into
socially
a world.
Acceptable.
It's socially, and you're told that what the American dream is to get it, you know, go to school, get student loans, and then get a job, and hopefully your job is in the industry that you got an education in, and then work really, really, really hard and save your money, and hopefully buy a house and, you know, have a mortgage for 30 years, and then you die in debt. Like, that is a life that's never really lived, and a lot of us live that way. A lot of people live that way, you know. But it's just like, if you knew that there was another way, like, these are the other ways. Like, you can make more money and have your time freedom. Well, how do you do that? Well, these are the things that we should be learning in school, because a lot of the stuff that they teach in school, even today, is just like, it's outdated. Like, the education system was built and designed to create slaves. And for me, now that, you know, I see things differently, I see like the school system, like the jobs, employments, even though we do need people that's employed, like, it's slavery. It really is. It's like, because you're living paycheck to paycheck. And so I feel like the education system is designed to create people that struggle, so that, and if you notice this, it's the people that struggle to make ends meet that the banks actually win off, because you have bank fees, right? It costs you more to be poor because your credit is going to be bad. Your interest rate is going to be up. If you don't have the money, you have to figure out how to come up with the money. And now you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's just like everybody else wins off you when you're poor, right? So it's just like everything that we were taught was wrong. So you have to figure out, well, how do you do it differently? And if you really, really think about it, it's, excuse me. it's those people that were high school dropouts. Like some of the greatest people in the world didn't even finish high school. Like some of the most profound like leaders didn't even finish high school. They probably didn't even have a middle school education, but they're multi-billionaires, right? It's because they weren't all the way indoctrinated into what everybody else, have gone through this system. It's like an assembly line. Put you through this system, and you're gonna think the same.
Yeah.
And now you can be taxed.
And then there's the the expectations of how you have to be as a man. You're supposed to be this, and a successful man looks like this, or a hardworking man looks like this, or a good man does that, and there's all these different reasons why you should be staying in these particular lines, right? Whether it's working 16 hours a day, or whether it's pursuing some education and getting all these crazy student loans, also that you can be acceptable, also that you can be viewed as valuable, which kind of reinforces a lot of the, at least to me, I think it reinforces a lot of the falsehoods about manhood and what it means to be a man or a good man or anything like that. And I think a lot of guys, especially men of color, because you don't even get as much access to information, that those ideas are even more damaging.
Yeah.
Because now, not only do you have this indoctrination, but you even have less tools to actually even successfully carry it out.
Yeah.
And so, you're constantly in this hamster wheel of just trying to keep your head above water, which I think is to me, that's what I see. I see a lot of ego and a lot of survivalism.
Yeah.
In men, especially the guys that I know, and it's kind of sad, man. I don't want to leave it that way. That's why, I started this entire series. It's just because I want there to be a better conversation about men. I'm so tired of hearing about insecure men or high value men. I'm like, what do all these terms really mean? Value is an objective term, and so, depending on what you decide what ideologies that you subscribe to, that's what's going to determine how valuable you are to your prospective mate.
That's right.
And a lot of times none of that is even talked about. If you don't want a guy who goes to church, what does it matter whether your dude goes to church or not? If you don't want a dude who works really hard, what does it mean? You could be a high value because you don't work a lot. That could, you know what I mean? So that all of those terms are so subjective, and I feel like men are constantly trying to keep up with this image that we're supposed to have, and I think it is just trash, personally.
No, I think you're right, for sure.
So obviously, you have a son. What's one of the things that you want to what's one of the things you want him to have as he gets older, as far as who he is, or an expectation that you may have for him? What is an expectation you want him to have, or you want him to live under?
So for me, just knowing that, in our culture, right, you 18, you grown. That's how we grew up. It's like you 18, you were grown. And I see a lot of people pushing their kids out to the streets as soon as they turn 18, not even realizing that's still a child. That's a kid. They're not even ready. What tools in these 18 years, they've been in school. So what tools have we gave them to survive? And so for me, I want my children to know that the sky's the limit, and that they don't have to rush out into the world, right? And there's a lot more knowledge than what you just learned in those schools. And, to apply yourself, you have to be, you have to be a student of success. You have to study people who have had success and look at their journeys and the things that they know, and just know that, think outside the box. The world does not end. The extent of your world is not just what's in your zip code and what's in your neighborhood. When you travel the globe, it opens your mind to see you can live anywhere. There's other types of lifestyle. There's a whole lot more to the world than just what we see every day. And so my expectation is really for my kids to embrace, the journey, the things that I've learned, the things that I'm empowering them to, and leaving for them, the legacy, but also to take the information that I'm leaving and that I'm sharing with them, and just take it to the next level. Because you're never fully grown, right? Like there's always room for growth. There's always more information, and there's always something else that you don't know. But at least just know that you don't have to do your American dream could be defined by you. Like, what does that look like? How do you want to live your life? And just, if you say, I want to go build a castle, well, you can do that. So set the goal and work backwards. How we're going to get to that castle, build a roadmap for yourself, and anything in life is achievable and attainable, and you can do it. Right. So I want my kids to know that there is no limits, to take the limits off, and don't let society define who you are or what's possible for you. Yeah.
Oof, that's so good. That is so good, to take the limits off. Like, who gave you those limits, right? Who set those ceilings and expectations?
Yeah.
That's just huge. So y'all who are listening, this is Karwana D. She is a government contracts expert, mom, masterful mompreneur, CEO. You know, how do people get in touch with you if they want to explore different government contracting? For young people who are, 17, 18, maybe 19 years old, they're like, yo, I decided not to go to school because I'm going to start this little company. I really don't know what I'm doing, but I know I ain't trying to go to school and learn all, what do they need to do? What are some steps they need to take?
There's definitely there's some 18-year-olds. In fact, there's some 16-year-olds who have contracting businesses selling to the government right now. In fact, there's a young man named Wesley Ross who landed a multi-million-dollar contract during the pandemic. He was 16 years old, selling masks and hand sanitizers to the government. So they literally buy everything. And so, like, if success looks like dollars to you and money and the business, all that stuff, like, you can definitely position yourself no matter how young you are. But I would say one of the best places to start is to learn and to understand what this is in the first place, so you'll know exactly how to position yourself. So I have a 5-day challenge at the end of every month. So if you go to govconchallenge.com, actually during that 5 days, you actually learn how to become pre-qualified as a government contractor. So you'll learn exactly what you need to have as far as your business, exactly how to leverage your socioeconomic disadvantages to get ahead, like being Black owned, being disadvantaged owned, being a local business, like all those things, and how much money is out there for you. And then you'll also learn how to basically unlock multiple streams of income and millions of dollars in potential revenues for yourself, just by going through that 5-day challenge. Like, that knowledge is so very powerful. And so I would say join the challenge. It's govconchallenge.com. That's the best place to start. Yeah.
Wow. I will have all this information in the show notes for you guys, because I am sure you're going to want to be like, all right, well, she made it sound like the smartest thing to do. So I'm going to just go ahead and click this link. So all of that information will be in the show notes. You guys can go ahead and follow Miss Karwana D, because she gives out a lot of really great information. And obviously, as you can tell, she is an absolute expert in her field. So really quick, well, actually, it don't have to be quick, but at the end of every episode, we ask our guests to leave us with a thought exercise. And so while you're thinking about that, and a thought exercise could be anything, right? Like a poem you read, or a book that you like, or just something that you really want to leave with the audience. But before we go to the thought exercise, I want to ask you just one more question. So aside from being a mom and an incredible consultant, business owner, what is it that you wish people knew about you, or that you wish people would ask you about?
That's a really good question. So let me see. I mean, what do I wish that people knew about me that they don't? I mean, most people already know. Like, if they've been following me, they know that I'm really passionate about helping people, and I'm sincere about helping people. And what I wish they knew about me was just more of, like, where I came from. I mean, I wish people would know that. That I'm just like them. I'm no different from a regular person who decided not to live again, the norm, like not to be a part of the American dream that was given to me, but to create my own, so that they too can know that they can design the life that they want to live as well. So that's pretty much it. Like, but as far as like lasting impressions, like last words that I want to share. There's a favorite quote of mine by Tony Gaskin, and it says, if you don't build your dreams, someone else will hire you to help them build theirs. And when I actually first saw that quote and heard it, like it really, really resonated with me, because I realized for the first few years of, adulthood, I was actually working for someone, helping them build their dreams. But yet all of the dreams that I had growing up as a kid was deferred because I wanted to help somebody else build their dream, not even knowing. It's not that I wanted to, it's just like I just thought I was supposed to work. And in working, that's what I'm doing. I'm helping someone else build their dreams. But one of the quotes that I actually designed is like, and this is something that I actually live by: live life by design and not by default. So I made it a commitment to myself to do that, to design the life that I want to live, right? Whatever that looks like. So now, instead of living by default and doing things that we're told to do and living the way we're supposed, that they say we're supposed to, like I actually can, write out my vision board and live and design the life, that I want to live, and actually put my action steps into place so that I can accomplish those things. And so that's what I want to encourage and empower people to do. Like, you don't have to, just because you have bad credit, right? That doesn't mean that you have to continue to have bad credit. If you aspire to have A1 credit, well, live life by design, right? Put that on your vision board that you want to fix your credit so that you can, whatever it is that you want to do by leveraging that credit, or maybe you just want to have it good, right? But you get to choose, right? But at the end of the day, let's just say the average person lives to 100. What is your story? Is your story just, I woke up every day to go work hard? Like, you have to care so much about the story that you leave behind, because somebody is watching and somebody is following you, and somebody is actually going to inherit the habits that you had, right? And so what is your story? So you have to learn to, just kind of create a story that somebody's going to be proud of, and create a story that tells history, that tells your history, not history that's been told to us, right? We have the power to change history in our household. And they say church starts at home, right? The first church is at home. So you have to start with your family.
Wow, that's so good. Oh my goodness. Live life by design and not by default. Listen, that is absolutely incredible, and that is a great principle to establish in every big decision you want to make. Is this because I want this, or is this because I just feel like I'm supposed to do this, or because this seems appropriate? That's like literally, sometimes I drive down the street and you can see people who don't have that principle, right? It's like, I created that principle, so it's like you can actually see people who live by default. They're just like on the street, alcoholics, on drugs. Like, you just wake up every day to, like, there are people in my community that wake up every single day to go stand on the corner for 12 hours. What? Like, you're living by default, like, because you don't know any better, right? So you got to live on purpose. What is your purpose? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know what their purpose is. They just live by what they've seen and think that's the way to go. And they don't know any better. It's like, that's life to them. That's the extent of their life. But, and I'm going to say this before I go, because I have like some clients that I'm going to be coaching in a few minutes. But this conversation is so good. On the tombstone, I heard this in a message once before in church. On a tombstone, you have the year that you were born, and there's a dash before the year that you pass away, right? That dash is your lifeline. So it's just like, what are you doing with your dash, right? That's your whole entire story. How small that's your whole entire story. And there are literally people who will live an entire life and never live at all, right? So what are you going to do with your dash? Wow. Oh my God. Y'all listen. Thank you so much. I am just blown away right now. I really appreciate you coming by. We will definitely have all this information for Miss Karwana D in the show notes. Oh my gosh. You are incredible. You are
Thank you.
absolutely incredible.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for sharing with us.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
To all of you all who are listening, thank you. And we'll talk to you guys a little bit later. Peace. Thanks for listening to Empower You Podcast. Don't forget to rate and review this episode because we would love to hear your takeaways from this discussion. And it helps us reach more listeners just like you. If you'd like daily audio video clips from the podcast, you can find Empower You Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you soon.